us. My name is Amanda Levitt, and I am the educator with Maker Studio. This is our beginner workshop. If you are brand new here, just let me know. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat at any time. Everyone should be set to mute at this point. If you do have any questions, just put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them as they come up. And I will give you a little sneak peek into the new studio. So hopefully you love it. You're brand new. You signed up during Laser Maker Con. So happy to be here. Well, welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. And let me share my screen so you can see the things. Okay. Share screen one. All right. Who's ready to get started? I am. I love workshop day. Workshop day means I get to either see familiar faces, meet new ones, show you guys something that either inspires you or helps you create something new for your product lineup that helps you make some money. So here is the new Maker Studio website. We have fully rebranded into Maker Studio. Some of you guys may have remembered our old name, which was Laser Map Maker, but because we are going far beyond just being able to generate map files for makers, we are going to bring you a suite of apps within Maker Studio. So that was the purpose behind the rebrand. If you are interested in learning more about the different apps that are coming, so currently Layered Map Maker is the live app, but very soon you will see a 3D map maker, which is map making for terrains. If you're using a 3D printer or you're using a CNC router, the 3D maps will work for that. And if you're interested in creating tumblers with very precise measurements and 360 mockups, this is not specific to maps. So the Tumbler Maker app is the first non-map app that we have, but stay tuned because there are going to be more apps rolling out. We are currently working off of a subscription model. So even though we will have multiple apps, Maker Studio will just have one ecosystem for makers. So it's just one subscription, and depending on what files you're exporting, that will determine how many exports or credits it will cost to generate those files. I will just tell you, nobody needs to pay for anything to try layered maps. It is completely free to join. It's completely free to create projects. And you can also export up to 3-layer exports. And the project that I'll be walking you through today is a 3-layer export project. So even if you're just kind of feeling this out and seeing if this is right for you, there's no financial commitment required. And that is my most favorite part to share with you, because I know sometimes you're just like, I don't know if I'll understand it. I don't know if my customers are going to like it. I'm not sure if this is for me. So there is zero barrier for you to not only get into the studio and start creating, but you can actually start generating your map layer exports as soon as we get off of this call. All right. So if you guys have any questions, just keep them coming up in the chat. Hi, Rory. Welcome back. Hi, Tina. Okay, so I did mention we do offer a subscription base. You can sign up monthly, you can sign up annually, you can see the pricing and the amount of exports that you get. Once the new studio rolls out and other apps are live, you will not need to change anything about your subscription. We will manually adjust those for you, or they'll automatically be adjusted for you. So it kind of speaks to the whole ecosystem and the different apps, and you can just bounce around between the different apps and keep creating your files. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the app. So this is just the main page. So because this is the only live app, I can click on this button that says Go to App, or under the Apps tab, I can click on Layered Maps. This is going to bring me into my project dashboard. So again, even if you are a free member, you can click on new project, generate as many projects as you need or as you want. And if you're feeling ready to actually export your map files, you do get 3 free exports every 30 days. This is for everyone. We give all of our members free or paid 3-layer exports on the house. So don't let anything hold you back. You can start creating as soon as this workshop is over. So I did put a file in the chat. If you are interested in creating a map using our basic city map template, which is what we'll be going through today, you can always reference this quick reference guide. It's in the chat and it's also in the Facebook group. I'll show you where to find it in the Facebook group, but you just start a new project, refine your location, get your map files, and then bring them into your laser software. I use Lightburn, so I'm going to show you guys how to use Lightburn. If you have an X tool, and you're using the Xtool Creative Suite, XCS, you can actually just click on apps and find the Map Designer app, and you can generate your projects and customize them all within the Xtool Creative Suite. And we have some other fun things coming soon. I can't share them yet, but it is very simple to find your location, get your files, and then bring them into your software and start creating. So that is your quick reference guide. If you are interested in videos, some of the sessions we have recorded, they are on our YouTube channel. So it's just youtube.com/@getmakerstudio. You can check those out. And then for the Facebook one, I might have closed that already. Let me double check. Okay. All right, so if you haven't joined Layered Maps by Maker Studio yet, you should join our community. It's full of amazing, helpful people. We're asking questions, getting them answered. We're sharing our finished projects behind the scenes. I really think it's a great community. Everyone is helpful. So if you want to find the quick reference guide in our Facebook group, you can click on the Files tab and you can just click on this PDF here. It'll pop open the post with the PDF. You can just click on it and then it will download to your computer like that right there. And we don't need it again, so let's just close the second one. All right, so you have your quick reference guide. You have access to our YouTube channel if you want to see some other pre-recorded sessions. You've gotten a little intro into the Maker Studio universe, and we are officially at our project dashboard and we can start creating today. So I have already created this in my dashboard, but I'm going to show you how I do everything from start to finish. So we are focusing on a specific area. It's Savannah National Wildlife Refuge, and it's bordering 2 states. So it is in Hardeeville, South Carolina, but it's also bordering the Georgia line. So oh, you just got, yep, I'm welcome. I'm glad you're here. I still see some people trickling into the waiting room, so I'll keep checking my screen off to the right just to make sure no one's waiting and I'm getting everyone's questions in. And if I say anything incorrectly, just correct me in the chat. I guess last week, instead of saying the word engrave, I used the word score, and I got a very kind email after the fact. They loved the workshop, but I used the wrong word. If I say the wrong word, just tell me in the chat. I'll fix it. Sometimes my brain is going a million miles a minute, and I might say the wrong thing. And if anything needs a little extra clarification, just ask. I am here to help you. This is a 45-minute session, and it is essentially your class. There are several people in here, but I want you to treat it like your class. This is you investing time into learning something new. So if I say anything wrong, just tell me. I got you. All right, so let's go ahead and start a new project. When you start a new project, you'll see a little window where all you have to do is type in your location. So in your location, in this case, I could do Savannah National. Okay, so see how I started typing and some results started populating below it? So I can type in the name of this area and click on it. I could also just go to the city where I know it is, so Hardyville, South Carolina. If I knew an address, I could type in the address. If there were a restaurant in this area, this is simply a search bar. So the location is very general. Just type in what you know, see what populates. And I'm actually going to delete this, but you can see that once you start to populate some results and you click on it, it also defaults your project name. So the only typing you really have to do here is setting your location. If you wanted to change or refine your project name, you absolutely can do it right here. And there's also a way you can do it in the project dashboard. So super simple, type in your location, it gives you your project name. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be using the basic city map template. Especially for beginners. Honestly, this is my go-to every single time. But especially for beginners, we found the basic city map template to be very helpful for you because it already includes your water, your land, and your minor and major roads. So step one, click new project. Step two, get your location, choose basic city map template, and click on create project. Good so far? We have another guest joining. All right. So, welcome to your studio. As I mentioned, this is the current studio. We are in the works of releasing the beta version of our new studio, and it's super duper powerful, and I can't wait to show you. But I'm going to show you what exists now, and then I'll give you a little sneak peek into the new studio afterwards. So what you'll notice is your project name is up here in the left-hand corner. If you want to change the way your studio looks, you can change it to night mode if it helps your eyes a little bit. You will see the layers panel. So the land with the water being cut out is one layer. And this little number 2 just tells you how many features are in there. So in order to know where to cut the water out, we need to know where land exists. And to know where land exists, we need to know where the water is being cut out. So that's why those 2 features are in that layer. The next layer we want to have are the engraved details that will fall on our land. And you'll see this has one feature, which is just our primary streets. And then the third layer, which will sit on the very top, these are all of our major roads that are being cut out. So this layer has 14 features within it. And again, these are just preloaded features for you. Your particular area may not necessarily have all of this data in it. It may not be relevant to your area, but because the template has all of these features preloaded, if they exist, they will populate. All right, so we've got our project name, we have our layers panel, the template has all of our features loaded within each layer for us. In the center, you have your main project screen. There is a way to collapse the layer panel and bring it back if you want to kind of clean up your screen. On the right-hand side, so currently the projects do autosave, but some people like to click on Save Project just so they know in their brain that it is being saved. So the Save Project button is there, but just be aware that it is saving as you're making changes to it live. And there is not currently an Undo button. So if you would like, I'm actually going to go back a step and I'm going to show you how I get back into the studio. So before I go over the tools with you, I want to show you how I would avoid making changes to my current project that I can't undo. So let's say this is my master file and I don't want to mess with it. If I click on this home button, it takes me back to my project dashboard and I can see the project right here. Now, because I haven't actually exported any files, it has a default screen to the New York City area. Once you actually export your files, you will see a live preview of what that looks like. So if you haven't exported your files, but you have selected a location, it'll look like New York. And I was running a test over here and I actually didn't select any location at all, which is why it just kind of has these contour lines in the background. But the reason why I wanted to come back into the project dashboard, not only do I want you to feel confident with creating your map files, I want you to feel confident with navigating the project dashboard and the studio. So here I have my project name, and because I can't undo things in this current studio, I'm actually just going to click the three dots. I'm going to duplicate my project, and this is the one I'm going to rename it. So here's where you would rename your project. I'm going to name this one maybe proof 2. So if you're working with a particular client, and you want to send them a slight change, like, hey, here's how it would look if we did this. You can simply duplicate your project, make a second proof, do all the changes that you want, and it won't affect your original file. In addition to duplicating it for the sake of proofs and not messing with your master file, you can also treat your master file kind of like a template. So if you mess around with different styles or features, you have a particular border thickness or road thickness, if you've developed a style for your maps and you want to just treat it like a template, you could simply duplicate it, open up your map, and then just change the location for your next job. So that way, this is very quick and simple for you. All right, everyone doing okay? I hope so. I just let someone else in from the waiting room. So anyone who's trickling in, just I'm gonna show you guys how to select a location and get your map files quickly using Layered Maps by Maker Studio. And everything I'm showing you does not require a subscription. You can join for free, start a new project, build as many as you want, and you can even export up to three map layers every 30 days. All right, so let's jump back into our project that we were working on. I'm going to open it in the studio, and we're going to go over some tools on the right-hand side. So if I wanted this to be in full screen mode, I can click on this icon. It would just look like this. It gets rid of the project name and the layers panel. If I wanted to just get rid of my layers panel, that's what this little arrow is for. If I wanted to figure out what map feature, what data set I'm looking at, there's an option called toggle inspect mode. And I can just move my cursor over certain pieces of data and it will just highlight it in a specific color and tell me what it is that I'm looking at. In addition to it telling me, if you look at the bottom of my screen, it will tell you what data set you're looking at. So I know I'm looking at my roads. So if I were to expand my roads layer and look at all of my features, I can also click on this road and you see how it selected it for me in my layers panel. And when you have a feature selected, the style button will pop up, and this is how you change the thickness of different roads. You can give it a different look. You can change the end from something rounded to something flat. But the styling is there once you have a feature selected. You can change one feature at a time, or if you want to change all the features within that layer, you can click them individually. You can just select all of them. Or you can click the three dots and the first option is select all features in the layer. So I can select that. My style button is right here. I can click on it. And then here where it says line width, I can change the width of all of those lines at the same time. So I'm going to get out of here I'm going to unselect everything, collapse this back, so I don't want to scare any of you off. But the template is great because all the layers and the features are preloaded. I just want to show you guys what tools you have access to in case you're feeling excited to start manipulating the look of your map. Another thing is I'm going to turn off my toggle inspect mode. And did you notice how the background has a slight satellite overlay look to it? So the satellite option, if you need help determining where you're at, you want to pinpoint a particular street or building, you can turn the satellite layer all the way up to help you pinpoint where you want to capture your map. And I'm trying to capture Savannah National Wildlife Refuge. So I kind of want to be Ooh, I didn't capture that in my original project, but it is very pretty. So I love all of these natural winding bodies of water. So however you want to capture it, you can just position it to where you want it to be. And then when you're done with your satellite overlay layer, you can turn it all the way down so you are only looking at the vector files that are going to be produced. Now, how do we create vector files from this? We use a color tracing technology, so it is very important that each layer you're working on only has one color present. And there are a couple ways that you can check that. So first, I like the positioning of my map. I don't want to adjust it anymore. I'm going to click on this lock mode. There's a little lock box. So now when I try to click it and move it around, it's not going to go anywhere. I know it's going to stay put. Worst case scenario, I don't lock it and I have to reposition it. But that's just a little tool to help you. If you do lock it, you'll see some of the other tools have been grayed out because those will affect the way your map looks. So the lock mode is super helpful. And I did mention that the beauty of the basic city map template is you don't have to think about all of the things I'm explaining to you when it comes to the layers and the features and making sure your colors are right. All of that is done for you, but I do want to explain it so that if you do want to make some changes, you feel good about it. So how do you check to see if your layers only have one color each? And how do you know what is happening on each layer? So you can do it a couple ways. So the first way is you can hide each of these layers so that only one is showing at a time. And I'll also show you what colors we're using for what data set and why. So if I want to hide a layer, again, I just click the three dots where I see a few options. And some of the options within the layer settings includes selecting all the features within the layer, editing the features we see within each layer, changing the settings of that layer. Maybe we want to change the border, the thickness. That's where you would do it. Maybe you want to lock your layer. Maybe you want to hide it. Maybe you want to rearrange it. You can move it down using this arrow, or you can simply click and drag to rearrange. You can also delete it, but remember I said there is not currently an undo or a history feature. So I highly recommend hiding things before you delete them to make sure you like the way it looks hidden. So again, we're going to preview what our layers look like one at a time, and I'm going to hide them and we can discuss them one at a time. So there are two colors here, but when we are color tracing to vectorize your files, white basically means no data. So wherever you see white, that's why we're using white for water, is because these areas are going to get cut away and become negative space. So our bottommost layer is our land with our water cutouts. I'm gonna try to show a project on the screen, and I hope it's visible in the little thumbnail. I know my background wants to take over, but bear with me. So look at the wood. I'm going to turn it around so you only see the back. So this wood layer is my land, And see all these little water pockets that are cut out? This particular map did not have a lot of water around it, but the layer we're looking at is land with water cutouts. Okay, so anywhere that's white is going to get cut away. It's going to fall through. You're going to be able to see through it. Now, see how there's a river running through it, but there is a colored border around the edge. The border is what allows all of your pieces to stay intact and make them very easy to stack on top of each other so everything is aligned perfectly. The border is your friend. It's going to help keep all of the things together. So where we are cutting, we want to make sure the border matches the data set. In this case, it's land. We're using gray for land, so we're going to have a gray border to keep all of our cut land pieces intact. Anyone have questions about the land with the water cutouts? All right, feel free to type them in the chat. I'm going to open up the next layer and I'm going to unhide it. So we're building on top of our land layer right now. So the next layer I have exposed are the engraved details that will be on my land. So if you can imagine, our land is our, let's say, Baltic birch. Come back. So let's say land is our Baltic birch. If you can see the details in the wood, those are the engraved details that we're looking at right now. So the land is going to be cut, I'll just say out of wood. Our water pockets are going to get cut away. And anything you see on this screen in black is going to get engraved. So in this case, my data set is black. Why is my border white? There are many very small water cutouts. Is there a way to delete these? Yes. It's just after you download the files. So the beauty of the Layered Maps app is we are simply taking map data and we're vectorizing it into SVG files, and you can edit it however you want. I'm in South Florida, so when I create maps of this area, there are a ton of water pockets, just like in this project. And sometimes they make sense and they should definitely be there. And sometimes I'm like, this is so unnecessary and I don't want to waste time cutting it out. So I just go into my data set and I click on that circle and I delete it. So that's not something that's happening in the Map Studio, but because it's being vectorized, you can easily edit those data points that you don't want to be there. Thank you for asking. All right, so did anyone answer me? Why is our border white for this layer if our engraved details are black? Can anyone figure out why we don't want it to be black? So keep in mind, this is an engraved layer, not a cut layer. And while you think about it for like 5 seconds, I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. So comforting. Okay. Thank you, Rory. So we don't want to engrave the border. We just want to engrave the details on our land below it. And if we're using a color tracing technology and I had a black border here, it's going to be welded to my black road details that touch the end. And then it's going to be very hard to edit it after I have exported my files. So when we use white and there's no data here, I'm simply just going to have all my little roads that I'm going to stack on my land, and we are going to engrave the minor roads only. We don't want to waste our time engraving the border. It's unnecessary. Yes, gold star for you too. Okay, so let's go ahead and reveal our topmost layer. Okay, so remember these thicker black major roads are being cut. If we didn't have this black border, if we used white for this border, these are all going to be kind of loose, fragmented roads. They may be all connected together, but we're not going to have a border to keep it clean. It's not going to be as easy to stack. So that's a little preview of how to look at your layers individually and make sure we're only looking at one color per layer at a time. Another way you can do it is by clicking on the Preview Export button. And you'll see in the background, it's going to start loading some previews of your layers. So we see the satellite, we see them all together, we start to see them individually, and then we are brought into our preview export screen. Again, the beauty of using the template is you technically don't have to worry about any of these settings. You can just click next at the bottom, and get to the point where you're exporting. But I am going to run through this with you so you understand it. And then I promise I'm going to go back in the studio and I'm going to finish explaining the tools that are on the right side. Everyone sticking with me so far? Okay, so when you get into your export preview section, you're going to see 3 tabs at the top. I'll go through all of them. The first one is the layers panel, and this is where you would make adjustments to what's happening for each layer. So before I get into the settings, I just want to show you visually what's happening with each layer. So if we look at them individually, you can see this is our major roads cut. It tells us the name of our layer right here. This is going to be our land engrave layer. So these are just simply the details that are going to be on our engrave layer. And notice anything that was white, so this border here, the white border is not present. White means no data. Nothing is going to be traced there. And you can see that here in our land water cut layer. So everywhere we have white for water, it turns into a transparency grid because those pieces are going to be cut out. Another late joiner. Okay, so we have the previews. We see what happens when we use white, and white means no data, so it turns into a transparency. We hopefully have understood that even though the land with the water cutouts and the land with the engraved minor road details, even though these are 2 different data sets and they will be 2 different exports, these 2 pieces of data are the same sheet of material. So we're going to cut this out of Baltic birch and we are going to engrave this onto that same piece of Baltic birch. So I'm going to show you in Lightburn how I stack these 2 layers together, and I just assign one color for cut and one color for engrave. All right, so those were the previews individually. This is the preview with all of it combined. And then in our layers panel, all of these settings have been pre-selected for you. So yes, we want to vectorize them. If it's going to be a cut, we choose outline. And if it's going to be an engrave, we want it to be a fill. All of our map files are going to be exported as an SVG. Those have been pre-selected for you. Okay, fun feature. Okay, before I show you that, let me show you how many layer exports this would cost. So this is a 3 map layer export project. If you are thinking back to this project that I keep showing, that my background wants to keep hiding, even though this doesn't have a solid water layer, this is also ignore my badge, my customization. This is also a 3 map layer export project. So what's happening is I have my land with my water cutouts. That's 1 layer export. I have all of my engraved details, if you can see that. So all of my minor roads are engraved. That's a 2nd layer export. And my 3rd layer export are all my major roads that are cut on their own and stacked on top of each other. I just further customized it by adding my own badge. I added some like standoff hardware here just to elevate it a little bit. And we actually made these. We had a different stand for them, but we made all of those at a workshop we did for the K&G Jamboree like a month or 2 ago, which was super duper fun. But that represents 3 map layer exports. So you're probably wondering, like, where is my water layer? I'm going to show you in Lightburn how I simply take the outer shape of the files I've already exported. I just duplicate that solid shape and that becomes my water layer. So in this example, hopefully I'm big enough on your screen. So in this example, I just took my circle, made a water layer out of the solid shape, and then I have my land cut out of wood with some engraved details. And then I made my major roads out of some gray acrylic that I stacked on top. So even though the current project we're looking at does not include a water foundation layer, all you need is a solid shape of whatever's going on with your map. Yes, will we get the stand? What do you mean, will you get the stand? You want a project? You can make one. I can show you how I did it. Let me see. So when we created that project, I don't know if most of you have lasers. I'd imagine you're all working with lasers, but I just cut these 2 pieces. See how one has a slot in the bottom and one has a slot in the top? Then you just slot them together and then it makes a beautiful stand. I'll show you another project while I'm demonstrating this. And then it just makes a little stand. You just pop it in there. Bloop. I'm so sorry about my background, but hopefully you get the gist. So you could easily laser cut your own stand if you wanted to as well. I'm good. I'm glad you see it. I'm not seeing the middle layer black lines on mine. Did I do something wrong to see it? Great observation. I don't like to assume, but I'm just going to ask Rob if you're doing this on your own. It sounds like you're losing some of these thinner black lines. Did you happen to zoom out? Because I will say, depending on your zoom level, whether you're zoomed further in or zoomed further out, the map data that populates will likely change. You tried to match my screen exactly. Did you zoom in or zoom out? Please tell me. Okay, so this costs 3 map layer exports. When I go to tiling, because I've used a square shape or a rectangular shape, I can enable the tiling feature, which makes it super quick and easy to split this up into multiple parts. So if you want to make a larger gallery installation or you're working with a smaller laser and you want to make a big map, there's nothing stopping you if you're able to utilize the tiling feature. I have also showcased in the past how you can use the tiling feature to create a custom set of coasters. So I just changed it to 2 rows, 2 columns. I'm not going to touch anything else. I'm just going to update my preview. So here's what a custom set of coasters might look like if I choose to utilize the tiling feature. And when I have the tiling feature turned on, I'm just going to crank it back up to 3 by 3. So there's 9 tiles here. And I have 3 layers worth of data to export. When I go to export this, it still only costs 3 map layer exports. So even if you decide to tile your project, even if you're a free user and you're using your 3 layer exports that you get on the house every 30 days, you can make a map like this. And depending on the size of your laser, you can make a pretty large installation. So I'm going to turn off tiling. I'm going to get back into this project and show you some other tools. So this was just a quick preview. So I showed you how to look at the layers individually within the studio, and then I showed you how to look at them individually in the preview export screen. We still have not generated our files. This is just me teaching you what to look for, how to get confident using it, what's happening in each different screen. So if I want to get back into my studio, I can either click the X up here or cancel down here. I usually just click X. So let's continue with our tools. I'm going to turn off my lock mode so that I have more features available. So if you ever forget what these tools are, just hover your mouse over it. It will tell you exactly what's going on. So we went over full screen, toggle lock, toggle inspect, satellite layer. If you wanted to change your location, you could simply click on the magnifying glass and change it right in the studio. If you wanted to get your coordinates, which I actually did put coordinates on the bottom of, come back. I actually did put the coordinates right here on this badge, and I just pulled them right from the studio. So coordinates are available there. I zoom in and out with the wheel on my mouse, but you can also use the zoom buttons. If you're trying to create a cohesive look, one way to do that, let's say you're making a bunch of different maps, you want to put it in your shop, you can use the same zoom level for all of your maps to create a cohesive look if you'd like. You can rotate your map. So the shape will not rotate, but the map within it will. So that's what the rotate feature is. Okay, so yes. Okay, Rob, I had a feeling it was the Zoom thing, and that's what I want to show you guys right now. Okay, so changing the coordinates could get me back to the original that I started with. Yes. So in my case, when I first started my project, I just typed in Savannah National Wildlife Refuge. If I get kind of wild and start moving my map around, if I wanted to recenter it, I would just retype that in here and select it, and it's going to recenter me to where I need to go. Going back to losing data if you zoom in or zoom out, I'm just going to show you what happens. See how the minor lines went away? So Rob mentioned he lost the lines. And I was like, oh, that's probably a zoom thing. So one way to get around it, let's say I did want to capture a larger area. I'm going to get to the position where I still see the tiny lines. So right there. And instead of zooming out, there's a tool called Map Scale. It's set to 100, but you can increase it as far as 200%. So if you want to capture a larger area, a larger lake, please be mindful it is loading a lot of data, so it might do a little screen blip there, but it is allowing you to zoom out and still retain your map data. So there's a little trick for you. Yay! I love the heart eyes. Okay, I'm going to get back to 100. And I will show you guys the custom map shapes. So for the graphic for this workshop, I believe I showcased an octagon? One of these guys. So you can click on map shapes, and there are some geometric ones. It was this one. It was the octagon. You can click on any of the geometric features. This is the one we use, so that's what I'll end up on. If you want to do any holiday shapes, maybe you're making a bunch of ornaments or something like that, gifting things, you can quickly choose any of these holiday shapes and it will isolate your map data within it. Everything will be connected to the custom borders. And you can also do different states. So in this case, because it's bordering Georgia and South Carolina, I don't know that I would choose a state shape, but if I did, let's say I made it South Carolina, I can position it so this National Wildlife Refuge is kind of centered. And then maybe on my map, I would add some custom text so people know what it is that they're looking at. But map shapes are super easy to use and a great way to replicate the same map, just utilize different state shapes to add some variety. Okay, next up is dimensions. So even though we're not working with specific units of measurement, we are working with aspect ratios. This is my octagon shape, so the only thing I can currently manipulate is the size of that shape and the data that it's capturing. If I wanted to, let's say, work with a particular frame, maybe I bought a blank frame at the craft store or something like that. Let's switch back to a square. And it could be a square, it could be a rectangle. You choose your aspect ratio here. So there are some pre-selected aspect ratios for you, but going back to, I want this to fit into a frame, all I have to do is type in the dimensions of what that frame actually is. I'm going to go with an 11-inch by 14-inch frame. And even though we may need to scale it up or down in Lightburn, it will be set to the correct aspect ratio so that once you have it sized appropriately in Lightburn, you can easily fit this right within that frame. Okay, so we have aspect ratios. We do not have units of measurement in this particular studio. I'm gonna get back to my octagon. Okay, I think this is about where I created my project. So I think I recall the river running almost right through the center. So let's preview and export it. I'm going to show you how I get my files now. So going back to the basic city map template, we've chosen our location. We use the basic city map template. We refined it a little bit by repositioning it. Maybe we zoomed in, we zoomed out. I gave it a custom shape, and now I'm ready to export my files. These are things you can do in minutes. It is super duper quick. So I'm not going to mess with any of my settings in my layers panel because the basic city map template does all of that for me. You will notice if you do not have a square or rectangular map, the tiling feature is not available to use. I am ready to export my file, so it's going to give me a quick summary of what's happening. We are going to vectorize them. If it's cut, it's set to outline. If it's engraved, it's set to fill. And all of these are going to be scalable vector graphics. So that is what an SVG file is. It is going to cost me 3 map layer exports. I am able to preview it as a complete project. I'm able to preview them as individual layers. Once I've confirmed that this is good to go, I click export. I say I have confirmed that I've reviewed my layers, and I click on export. So right now it's going to process my map layers, and it's going to bring me to my processing screen. So if I hover over my current project, it shows my vector preview. If I don't hover over it, it just shows me the satellite image of the area I captured. And then here at the bottom, you can see the date and time that you exported it. And if you make changes to a project, let's say you don't duplicate it and make changes in a separate project. Let's say you are exporting this multiple times. You can view the history of all the files you have exported for each project in this screen. It becomes like a little history for you. Wowzers, I have people who are just now joining. Way to catch the end, guys. All right, so what we've done is we've created a location with map data. We have now generated our files. We can see a preview of them. If you want to open them just to view them in your website browser, you can click on open. You can download them individually, or you can download them as a zip file. One thing I'd like to bring your attention to is that there are going to be multiple options for downloading them. So whether I click download underneath the file, you're going to see the options. If I click download zip, so I download them all at the same time, you're going to see a few options. But before we get into those options, I want to show you the SVG previews. Do you notice how there's an orange line around all of these layers? This orange line is meant to be used as a tool. You're going to see it in your file when you bring it into your laser software to run it. The orange line is only an alignment tool. It will not be a part of your finished project. So in the case where I mentioned we want to stack our engraved data on top of our land, how do we do that without a border? We use our alignment line. We will not need it for this one because we're not stacking it with anything. We're just going to treat it as its own layer. Is there a place to view other lessons? Yes, those are in our YouTube channel. So youtube.com/@getmakerstudio. Boom, right there in the chat for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and download our files. I'm working with Lightburn. So if you're downloading the Lightburn version, anything that was set to fill will result in black. Anything that was set up for cut will result in a red line. So if you are in Xtool, you will actually see a button here that says open in Xtool. So you don't have to worry about downloading it and then reopening it. You can just click open in Xtool and you can finish your laser settings or customizations in there. I'm using Lightburn, so let's go. Did I actually click it? Let me click it. So let's get our Lightburn files. I'm gonna open it, and because it's a zipped file, I do need to click extract. It opened up on this screen, so let me move it over. So here's the file I downloaded. Because it's zipped, I have to click on extract all. I do want to make sure it goes into my downloads, and this has been the best way for me to do it. So this project ends in 7F. So mental note for myself, because I have a lot of projects accumulating in my downloads folder. Okay, and now I'm going to get into Lightburn. I will tell you that I have already opened this in Lightburn, and it's down here, but I want to show you how I bring them in. And in Lightburn, you want to bring them in one at a time. So I'm going to go to import, find my downloads. Remember, I said it ended in 7F. So when I click on that, I see all of my files, and you'll notice they start with whatever your layer was named. Can you change the download name to match the project? I really wish I could. The only thing I would suggest there is in your downloads where your project is, as soon as you see it, I would rename it. So maybe just put Savannah Wildlife National Refuge. For me, I'll put workshop. So that is what I would suggest to you because the gibberish is not it. Okay, so let's get back into our files and we'll just bring them in one at a time. So here's my roads cut layer. I'm going to move that over there. I'm probably going to cut this out of black acrylic. It's kind of my go-to for the roads. And then let's bring in the next one. So these are going to be the details that engrave on my land. And let's bring in our land. Okay. Bloop. Okay, so these represent our 3 map layer exports. And for the sake of time, I do want to go to my pre-baked project. So I'm going to zoom way, way out just so you guys can see what I'm doing with my Lightburn screen. So technically, this is my working grid. This is where you put your project. I like to work in the infinite white space, and I'll show you all the steps that I did to get it ready. So the first thing I did was I brought in my 3 different layers. So I showed you guys how to do that. Do you feel confident with it? So download your files, bring them in one at a time. Your software might be a little bit different. For example, one of the demos I did, someone was working with CorelDRAW. You could technically bring in all the layers at the same time, but they're going to open up in different windows. So you've just got to get them all into the same window. When you do that in Lightburn, it's going to want to bring them all in on top of each other, and we don't want that, which is why I brought them in one at a time. I've also added a little bit of notes to them, so hopefully it helps you follow along. All right, so export 1 was our land with our water cutouts. Export 2 was our land with our engraved details. Export 3 are our roads being cut. Earlier, I mentioned that there was no water foundation layer, but if I just go into one of my map layer exports, I'm going to make sure it's ungrouped so I can simply select this outer octagon. I'm going to duplicate it and bam, there's my water layer. So I am going to make sure this is grouped because you don't want your water bits getting moved to the incorrect place. But I did want to show you how I created my water foundation, and all I did was steal the outer shape from one of my exports. All right, so this one I put the note in blue because it's not something I exported from the studio, it's something that I made. Doing good so far? I like to check in. I also love you guys who have your videos on, and I love the bow. Nice touch. Love it, love it. Okay, so I have my water foundation. I have my layer exports. I know I need to get my engraved details on the land. So let me show you how I do that. Oh, it's getting stuck. Okay, so in this case, since this layer is going to be its own material, it's not getting stacked with anything, I actually do not need my orange alignment tool. I could simply, in Lightburn, I can turn the output and the show off so it's not there, but I like to delete things that I'm not using. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete it. My roads are ready to go. In order to get my engraved details perfectly stacked on top of my LAN, I'm going to click my top left corner of that layer and I'm going to snap it to the top left corner of that layer. And now I no longer need my orange alignment line, so I'm going to make sure I ungroup and delete. Okay, so this is technically my LAN layer. I like to use Baltic birch, so imagine anywhere you see red, I'm going to cut those lines out, and anywhere you see black, I'm going to have it set to fill, and it's going to engrave it. Okay, so let's go to my next set of notes for you. So now I'm showcasing what my 3 different material layers will be. I have my solid water foundation. I have my land with both cutout detail and engraved detail. And then I have my topmost layer, which is going to be my roads cut. Now, remember I said we do not work in specific dimensions in the current studio. So even though these might be to the right size or aspect ratio, you will likely have to change the dimensions. So when I click on it, let me get into inches. So if you're working with the metric system, this is almost 420 millimeters or 16.5 inches. I want this project to be more like 8 inches. So all I really need to do now is scale it to 8 inches. And these are ready to go. So this will also work for Glowforge. Yay. Yeah, you can do it right after this class. So I'm going to put this, if you use your working area, I'll put this into my working area. I'm going to go put I'm not actually going to do it. I'm just going to just follow along. So I'm going to put blue acrylic in my laser and I'm going to cut this shape out of it. That's going to give me my water layer. Okay, that's done. Next, I'm going to take this piece of data. I'm going to go put some Baltic birch in my laser. I'm going to run this with red cut lines and black engraves. That sheet's done. Third, I'm going to put some black acrylic in my laser and I'm going to run these roads being cut. That's it. So Maker Studio, start a new project, use the basic city map template, plug in your location, refine it if you need to, get your files, prep it in Lightburn or whatever your laser software is. This is something that you can truly do in minutes. The more you do, the faster you will get at it. I do want to show you a